Universal Casualty, Super Q,
los Miami Dolphins y tú, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Son los Dolphins, nuestros Miami Dolphins, el team número 1 en toda la nación. Y son ellos orgullo de Miami y de todos los latinos en la capital del sol. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Este año no me hablen de los Redskins, no me hablen de los Chargers, ni de los Dallas Cowboys, porque los Dolphins son número 1 y lo demostrarán al llegar al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Nuestra línea está mejor que nunca y nuestra defensiva fue siempre la mejor. Y es por eso que yo no tengo duda que los Miami Dolphins ganarán el Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, con los Miami Dolphins, rumbo al Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins me voy para el Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins me voy para el Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins me voy para el Super Bowl. Con los Miami Dolphins me voy para el Super Bowl.
Universal Casualty
Y Super Q, los primeros. Bueno, caballeros, todo el mundo que cante con nosotros. Dame una D, dame una O, dame una L, dame una P, una H, una I, una N, una S. ¿Qué es lo que tenemos? Miami Dolphins. Me voy para el Super Bowl. 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 Me voy para el Super Bowl.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
There's a team Dolphin fans. Football is mighty rough. Winning gets awful tough. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins.
Hello, Miami Dolphin fans, and welcome to the Same Old Dolphin Show, sponsored by BetUS, part of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. I'm Josh Katzker. With me today and every day is my brother from the exact same mother, Aaron the Brain. Aaron, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Brain, how you doing on the Monday before Christmas?
I'm doing good, man. Just, ready to enjoy the holidays, things slowing down a little bit. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling relaxed. Be feeling a lot better if the Dolphins were 9-5 and not 8-6. But all things considered, can't complain.
Yeah, not too bad. It is the holiday season. Happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Thank you.
Out there. Hanukkah is well and truly underway. And Christmas, like we said, is on the horizon. And yeah, we'd be feeling really good, but probably be feeling a little bit better if the Dolphins had not lost on Saturday night to the Buffalo Bills, falling 32-29. But this is one of those games. It's one of those weird ones, one of those really frustrating ones as a Miami Dolphin fan, because I said in the week leading up to this game, in the preview show, I said, Brain, it's one of those games where the result, yes, if you don't win the game, it's not fatal to your playoff hopes. It's one that you'd love to win, obviously, to still be in with a legitimate shot at winning the AFC East. But if you lose, you're still in there in the playoffs, in the playoff hunt, and still controlling your own destiny. So it's one where the performance in some ways is more important than the result. And I said that leading up to the game. And in some ways, I think I still believe that. But man, was that a same old Dolphins kind of loss. Now, I want to clear something up, because I had a lot of people in the old mentions talking about, no, that was not same old Dolphins. Same old Dolphins would have been to go in there and get your doors blown off. And like, to the people who would say that, I say, you got a short memory about the Dolphins. Okay. Because yes, in recent years, yes, that the same old Dolphins the last few years, that's what it would, going into Buffalo and getting the doors blown off. That's what that would have looked like. But when I talk about a same old Dolphins kind of loss, I have seen this exact game so many times over the years where the Dolphins just make just enough mistakes, just fall short just enough time, and the defense can't do anything early on, but then they turn it around and do just enough to let the offense get into the game and take control, and you start to feel good, and you start to feel like, yes, now we're going to win this game, and then the defense can't hold on, and the Dolphins end up falling short. And it was really, really frustrating, right? It was just a really frustrating loss. And the thing of it is, that's not to take away from the abundance of positives that do come out of the game, right? But at the end of the day, this was a game that was right there to win, and the Dolphins failed to win it. And not only did they fail to win this game, you take that result and you combine it with failing to win in LA and failing to win the week before that in San Francisco. And now you've suddenly got a 3-game losing streak on the back of where you had been 8-3, sitting pretty, feeling good. And now you're 8-6, and there are reasons for optimism coming out of that game. But for the most part, you got to be pretty frustrated.
Look, it's definitely frustrating. I said before the game, and I said at halftime when I jumped on with you and Mike, look, there's no moral victories. That was a big game. In truth be told, even though it seems like Dolphin fans, we're ready to call the Chargers game a must-win game, and then we're, coming into this game suddenly like downplaying the importance of the game against Buffalo, when in actuality, the game against Buffalo was a far more important game. And there's some psychological aspects to that we could talk about fandom. But in general, there's no moral victories. And the Dolphins had an opportunity to win that football game. That was not just a game that they could have won. That was a game that honestly they should have won. And you can come out of that positive and you can come out of that negative however you want to look at it, depending on if you're a glass half full fan or you're a glass half empty fan. The bottom line is it doesn't change anything, because anything that you're looking for as far as encouragement, in the macro for this team, they're in the window of you've got to win a Super Bowl. So you got to figure it out. I tend to come out of that, which is amazing because I'm the quote unquote negative fan, the Debbie Downer. I actually come out of that game more encouraged than discouraged, but there's obvious concerns and there's obvious positives, and we'll get into all of that. But look, you come out of it, you still control your own destiny. You now have three huge games. Prove that you're legit in these 3 games, and then you'll get another opportunity to prove that you're legit and that you can win a road playoff game against a real contender. Because at this point, if you want to get where you want to be, you're going to have to do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely going to have to go out onto the road and win a game in the playoffs. If you're going to make anything happen, if you're going to make that dream come true, you're going to lift that Super Bowl trophy, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to do it on the road every single time, because it's going to take a lot of crazy events for the Dolphins to somehow end up with a home playoff game. And even then, I don't think it's happening. So we're going to talk about all of this. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about positives coming out of the game, talk about some worrying things as well. But we're going to get into all of that. But first, a reminder, as always, if you're not doing so yet, make sure you're following us on Twitter. I'm at Amplified to Rock. He is at Aaron the Brain. That's at Aaron the Brain. The show is at Same Old Dolphins. We invite you to subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. Shout out to everybody watching live on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel and the I'm a Miami Dolphin Fan Facebook page. Go ahead and share, like this video. Go ahead and click that thumbs up right there. We appreciate it. Just take a moment. Share, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell so you're notified every time we go live or when a new piece of content is added, like it was earlier today when my interview with Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins hit the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked that out, I encourage you to head over there to the Dolphins Talk YouTube and check out my little chat with Christian Wilkins. That's up there right now. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a review. We appreciate it very much. And make sure you're visiting DolphinsTalk.com each and every day. It's your one-stop shop for all things Miami Dolphins. We're going to have a lot more content coming your way as we have 3 very large football games remaining in the regular season for your Miami Dolphins. And there's going to be lots of content coming your way, even through the holiday season. So make sure you're subscribed. Brain, let's get into this game. Let's talk about positives. We'll start there, right? We'll do this the old school way on the Same Old Dolphins Show. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because quite frankly, I think there was a lot of all 3. And I want to start with the good, because we always get accused of being too negative, right? People always tell us that we're way too negative. We should change the name of our show, blah, blah, blah. Sidebar, this is why we didn't change the name of our show in October, but I digress. Please see pinned tweet at Same Old Dolphins. But let's talk about the good. First of all, the big narrative, one of the big narratives coming into this game was that the Miami Dolphins couldn't win in cold weather, couldn't play in cold weather. One of the very real narratives was that Tua Tagovailoa could not play in cold weather and that he struggled in December and January road games. The Dolphins answered both of those. I thought Tua had a very good game. He wasn't great. He wasn't lights out, but he was everything that you would expect him to be. I thought he had a very good game on Sunday, and doing it on the road in the conditions, although the conditions weren't nearly as bad as what a lot of people were expecting them to be. Even once it did start snowing late in the game, the conditions really weren't all that bad, all things considered. And I thought Tua had a very good game under those circumstances. So I thought that was fine. And then the other thing is that the Dolphins went out there and they they played a very good game. They had a very good game plan. They established the run, which, hello, where has that been? How about, let's talk about the Dolphins rushing the ball 25 times for 188 yards, averaging 7.5 yards per carry. Hello. The Dolphins ran all over the Bills like I think only maybe one or two other teams had run on them like that all season long. So this was quite an accomplishment for the Miami Dolphins to do that. Now, when we get into the bad and the ugly, we'll sort of follow that point up. But again, I was really pleased with that. I was really pleased with the run game working out, and I thought the game plan offensively was actually, for the most part, really, really good, Brain. And then the other thing that I thought was good, yet again, which is a theme that is continuing, I thought the defense made some good adjustments in the second half of this game. Granted, eventually they got worn out or whatever, and they ended up not being able to finish the job, but it was some very good adjustments made by Boyer and this defense in the second half. They were aided by Mitch Morse, the center for Buffalo, going out, and that opened things up for the front four to start really getting some pressure on Allen. But again, the adjustments made in the second half, the Dolphins held the Bills 5 straight possessions without any points after basically letting Buffalo go right down the field 3 straight times in the first half. So those adjustments were great. Brain, your thoughts on the good things from this game against Buffalo?
So obviously, I think Tua played a good game, but I think the biggest good thing is the rushing game, the run game. 25 carries for 188 yards, an average of 7.5 yards per carry. And yeah, like Raheem Mostert, piled up a bunch on that 67-yard run. But even after that, I thought the Dolphins consistently ran the ball well and pretty much at will when they wanted to and when they stuck with it. And I thought that's something that bodes well for this team going down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be something that, if they can get back to that and stick with it going forward, is going to bode well for them. So that was really positive. But of course, there were some bad things in this game as well. And I think chief among them, and we've got to talk about it, and we've been talking about it all season, and particularly early on in this season, we had people ragging on us, Brain, when we would criticize some of Mike McDaniel's play calling, when there were times where we thought he was getting a little bit too cute for his own good. On third and short, he's dialing up some pass plays or he's not just doing the straightforward thing, which is run the ball and just do what you need to do to get the first down. And there were several times in this game on third and shorts where he dialed up some we'll call them cutesy plays, where there's screens or he's throwing the ball rather than just doing what you've been doing well all game, which is running the ball successfully. And when asked about it afterwards, and this was actually something that I found to be, I'll say, unsettling as a Miami Dolphin fan, when the coach was asked about it in the press conference afterwards, why he got away from the running game, one of the things he said was, well, you got to stay ahead of the defense and what the defense is doing. And this really frustrated me. Because yes, you do need to stay ahead of what the defense is doing. But at the same time, when you want to control the game, you got to what great teams do is they go out there, and when it's time to run the ball, to run the game out, you go out there and you run the ball and you run the game out no matter what the other team is doing. That's the mark of a truly great team, is that when the other team knows that you're going to come out and run the ball, you still come out and run the ball and do what you need to do. And there was no better case in point than this, than on Buffalo's final possession of the game, when they did exactly what the Dolphins had a chance to do, not once, but twice in the fourth quarter of this game, which was hand the ball off to the running back and run upfield and make things happen. When you can establish that run and you can truly do it, it doesn't matter what the defense is going to throw throw at you, you're going to be able to execute. And once you have the ability to do that, then you are at that next level. I understand there's a little bit of gamesmanship and wanting to take advantage of them. And if they're selling out to stop the run, there's an opportunity for you to open the door and do something else. But here's the thing. If they're going to go all out to stop the run, so you decide that you're going to do something else, well, then you have to execute. And the Dolphins failed to do that. So that was one of the things that is probably more than anything else in this game. That was the thing that frustrated me the most, Bryn.
Yeah, I get it. I think this is a trend now. We know we're getting a good feel for who Mike McDaniel is as a coach. He is an aggressive head coach. We have not seen an aggressive head coach down here for the Miami Dolphins in quite some time. I don't know that we've ever seen a coach even close
Adam
to.
Gase will tell you he was aggressive.
He'll tell you a lot of things. But we're seeing that he's a little bit too aggressive to a fault. And then we're also seeing it's about tendencies. Right now, he has a tendency to, in a situation, he's going to skew with the more aggressive play. He's going to skew towards, I'm going to do what I think the defense is not expecting us to do, instead of trusting, the game plan. And I think that's real. Trust is a big word here, because it usually gets thrown around, especially over the last 30 years of Dolphins football, when we talk about a coach trusting or not trusting a certain aspect, particularly of their offense. It usually is about the quarterback. And it's usually, you need to trust that you need to put the game in your quarterback's hands at some point and trust that they're going to make the right play. That's what makes him a franchise quarterback. Well, we've gotten to the point now with Tua and Mike McDaniel, where Mike McDaniel clearly trusts Tua Tagovailoa. Where we need to get is to the point where Mike McDaniel trusts the entirety of this offense, because that's what that was in this game. When you are running the ball as well as Miami was running the ball in that game, and you get to a 3rd and short several times, and each time you elect to pass, that is because you don't trust that you can get the first down on the ground. Because not in, yes, every now and then you're going to be like, oh, they're selling out on the run. We're going to hit them for a big play. And look, you got to love the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. That's what happened on that play. But on 3rd and 1, in a key spot where you've got an opportunity to have really a drive to take a stranglehold on the football game, and you pass the ball in that situation, considering how well you've run, that really just comes down to you did not trust your offensive line and your running backs that they were going to be able to get 1 yard. And if you cannot trust your running game to get 1 yard, then you are not good enough. So you've got to get to the point where you can trust them. And then if it doesn't work, then hey, it doesn't work. You didn't execute. But you can't take it out of the playbook. Like, you cannot get into a 3rd and 1 and just be scared to death of running the football. It just can't happen.
No.
And that's really what it comes down to. And the truth is that there's a lot of good that came out of Mike McDaniel's coaching. And there's a lot of encouragement that I think you can take away. Like, the fact is, he showed that he can adjust. Just look at the amount that the Dolphins did run the football. Like, they stuck with their game plan. And down at halftime in this game, 21-13, after that huge touchdown that the Bills scored right before halftime, the Dolphins defense comes up with a stop. And that was like a key point right there in the game where Mike McDaniel could have said, no, we got to throw the ball. We can't, we got it. And press a little bit, but they interviewed him after he came out of the locker room and he said, we need to not press and we need to stick to what we're doing because it's working. And they did. And it worked. He just needs to rein. He went part of the way there, but he didn't commit all the way because at the end of the day, he just didn't trust his running game. At some point, you're going to have to trust the entirety of the offense.
And that's the thing, right? You can't go into anything and just do it halfway. You've got to be able to fully commit to it. And that's all there is to it. And listen, that was one thing that was really frustrating in this game. There were other things. There were other things that were bad. There were opportunities where the Dolphins got into the red zone and were settling for field goals. And against a team like the Buffalo Bills, or, when the Dolphins, let's say the Dolphins make the playoffs, right? And we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that. We'll probably touch on it a little bit in this episode. But if the Dolphins make the playoffs and you're traveling on the road to a place like Kansas City or Cincinnati or Buffalo, when you get the ball into the red zone, you have to finish those drives. You have to, because that other team is going to then turn around and they're going to come back and they're going to finish their drives, right? Look at all of the little things. You have Tua take a bad sack. I mean, it wasn't a terrible sack, but Tua takes a sack in their first red zone drive, ends up resulting in a field goal. Trent Sherfield dropping what should have been an easy touchdown pass. I mean, the play before that, Tyreek Hill, obviously it's contested, but that's a play that you would expect Tyreek Hill to make as well. And again, so failing to execute in those moments puts you behind the eight ball and you're settling for three. And when you're settling for three up against a team like Buffalo that's going to make you pay, those points on the margins are going to come back to bite you in the butt. Going for two and missing it is one of those things that's going to bite you in the butt. I'm not saying it was necessary. When we were doing the live stream, I know Mike was killing Mike McDaniel for going for two there. I don't know that I hated the call, but if you're going to go for it, you got to execute, because otherwise failure to do that is at some point going to put you behind the eight ball. And against a tough opponent like that on the road, you need to do everything in your power to keep the game in front of you. And that means executing in those moments and not leaving points on the field, because it's something that the very best teams will take advantage of. And it's exactly what Buffalo did in this game. Buffalo is a very good team, and they've got an excellent quarterback in Josh Allen, who shows you what a great quarterback can do when it's time to put the game on the line. He can just put this team on his shoulders and carry them to victory, which is what Josh Allen did. And that's not taking a shot at anybody else. That's just saying that that's what Josh Allen did. That's what he does, and he is that level of quarterback. So again, very little margin for error in this game. There were some other things that were bad. Brain, I don't know whether to put the officiating under bad or ugly. I'm not typically a blame the officials guy. I'm not really big into blaming the refs, because my feeling on that is that bad refereeing is typically going to come out in the wash. And, as good or bad as the officials may have been in this game, nothing was as egregious as what we saw on Sunday night, where the Giants and Commanders game, like that was truly abysmal officiating. You can say that the Bills had guys all over Dolphins receivers that didn't get called, and then Cater Kohu gets a pass interference called on him and on the final drive, and it
was pass interference.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was absolutely a hold before the pass interference. It's like I'm not here to get into squabbles about some of the officiating, but there were some bad calls, like Josh Allen throwing the ball at his offensive lineman and there not being a flag there. I don't understand how that works. Like, that was abysmal. I don't want to get into, Snowball Gate is my ugly for this game, but listen, there were plenty of things that were bad about it, and not least is the fact that the Dolphins failed to win this game, a game that was right there to win. I think that's probably the worst thing of all, Brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, how's this for ugly? I mean, And how's this for same old Dolphins? Does it get more same old Dolphins than the guy that has been your most sure-handed receiver? The guy that he's not your best receiver, but every single time you've needed a big completion and you've thrown at Trent Sherfield, he has made the catch for him to drop the touchdown.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Like in the big game, in the big moment. It's rough.
McDaniel even called him out in the post game in his press conference. He said, we're not in this situation that we're in today, if not for Trent Sherfield making big plays along the way. And, he drops the touchdown pass.
It's absolutely true. And guys aren't going to bat 1,000. Tyreek Hill's going to drop some passes. We've seen Jalen Waddle drop some passes. Trent Sherfield is going to drop some passes. But you get down to the nitty-gritty of the season. You get into the biggest games. These are the things that are the difference between winning a big game and losing a big game.
Yep, absolutely. So there was plenty of bad there. And
the officials. You wanted my opinion on the officials,
yeah,
right?
Talk about the officiating.
Yeah. So I thought the refs were really bad in the first half. I thought it was really bad. I thought it was crazy that Tyreek Hill wasn't getting calls when he was being mugged, and Gabe Davis was getting calls on, and I'm not even saying that they were bad calls. I'm just saying that if you just have to be consistent. If you're not going to call it when they're doing it to Tyreek Hill, you can't call it when they're doing it to Gabe Davis. Like, Gabe Davis doesn't deserve the superstar treatment over Tyreek Hill. In the second half, I thought things evened out. The grounding call, again, I agree, it was a bad miss by the officials. But the pass interference at the end of the game was whatever. Like, I thought at the end, I'm like, come on, that's BS. And then they showed it, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, that's as textbook as it gets. Like,
yeah.
it was a pretty obvious call. You have to call that.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people will say that, the flag was coming out before there was contact. What do you have to say about that?
If there was no contact, then I'd be angry. I don't know. Like, do I agree with the process that the official had in predicting that it was going to be a penalty? No, I don't like that. But the fact is, Kader Kohu made contact before the ball got there, did not make a play on the ball. It was textbook pass interference.
Yeah, true. Well, the thing that you have to remember about Gabe Davis is that he's a 2017 college football national champion. So he does carry that respect with him, because you got to respect the UCF Knights. But, other than that, let's talk about the ugly. How about the snowballs? How about these idiot Buffalo fans throwing snowballs onto the field, and, the officials doing relatively little to stop it? I don't know if we need to make a whole big case out of it, but, we knew Buffalo fans were no good by and large. I know, obviously, not every Buffalo fan is a piece of garbage, but there are a whole lot of them that are. And they were showing themselves throwing snowballs at players and officials and all of that at the stadium. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was crap.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? This shit's going to happen in Buffalo. It's just going to happen. Like, the refs, stopped the game. They said that they're going to penalize them for 15 yards.
And then didn't. I'm just saying. I don't know that ultimately it makes a difference one way or the other at the end of the day. I mean, like, certainly ugly.
It's whatever. It's ugly. It's not something that I would condone. It's obviously a bad look for Buffalo fans, even though Buffalo fans will probably be taking pride in something stupid like that. At the end of the day, that's part of Buffalo's home field advantage. It really is. Like,
they have more idiots than we do.
They have more idiots. We have more sunshine.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point.
It is what it is. We put their sideline under, heat that's like 30 degrees hotter than our sideline.
That's right.
And they hit us with snowballs.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Yeah. and they cry to OSHA. But regardless. All right, anything else you want to add about this game, Brain? Obviously, it was very frustrating. It was a game that the Dolphins had right there to win. They made some mistakes. They didn't do quite enough. Ultimately, they're not quite as good of on the day, they weren't quite as good as Buffalo, I think it's fair to say. But at the same time, if these two teams were going to face each other again, you probably walk away from this game feeling a bit more confident about the next time they face each other. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I would say my biggest takeaway from this game was there's a team there that is ready to win a Super Bowl. And there's another team there that's close, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
The thing is you've got 3 weeks left in the regular season before you get to the playoffs. That's a lot of time to get yourself to that point, because frankly, I come out of that game and my thought is this Dolphins team is close. I don't know that they're going to get it right and that they have enough, to get everything right in time to be where they want to be at the end of this season. But I look at the rest of the AFC and I look at the rest of the league, and you just went toe-to-toe with Buffalo in a huge game. Kansas City, do you want to go into Kansas City in the playoffs? No, you don't want to go into Kansas City. Do you want to go into a matchup against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? No. But
can I amend
but have you
your
watched
answer?
Kansas City? They're not steamrolling teams. They just went to overtime with Houston.
Can I say that I would prefer, if I'm going to be in the playoffs, I would prefer not to go to Kansas City. But if it's a matter of wanting to go to the playoffs, I'll go anywhere if we're in the playoffs.
Sure. But it's not like, obviously you're going to have to go, whether you go to Buffalo or Kansas City or Cincinnati or 2 or 3 of those places in your road to the Super Bowl. You're going to have to go to those places at some point.
Yes.
And my point is, this is basically as tough as it gets. What you've had in this gauntlet, the LA game, the Chargers are kind of turning their season around, it looks like, but they're not on the same level right now as San Francisco and Buffalo. But you played road games at San Francisco. You played a road game at Buffalo. That's as tough as it's going to get. And you had opportunities to win both of those football games.
Yeah. All 3 of those games, and that's the thing that's so frustrating as the Dolphin fan, as a fan of this team, is that as bad as the Dolphins played in those first 2 games, those games were still right there to win at the end of it. Just like the Buffalo game, in the game that we played really well, was right there to win. But that's the thing that's so frustrating about the situation, because we said at the beginning, the Dolphins can't go and lose all 3 of these games. They have to win at least one of them. And we said when they lost the game at the 49ers, it's like, it's not the end of the world that you lose this game because you've got 2 more left. It's not until you lose both of those games that suddenly there's something to worry about. And now they have, right? So now, again, it's a matter of, we talk about margin for error. Now there is no margin for error as you come into these last 3. There's margin, but there's not as much, right? You could have been coming into these final 3 games knowing that all you got to do is win a game and you're in. If the Dolphins win that game against the Chargers or win that game against the Bills, I mean, they're as good as in. But now we got to sweat. And so now you put those, as Mike McDaniel said, it's frustrating because he said if the Dolphins had performed the way they did against the Bills, against San Francisco or LA, they win at least one of those games, if not both of them.
Agreed.
But now they didn't. So now you've got to deal with those consequences. And dealing with those consequences is something that the Miami Dolphins have had to do time in and time out. over the years. And that's one of those things that we talk about when we talk about those margins for error. And we talk about the little mistakes that the Dolphins make in the games, even when Tua is not playing, when they make mistakes against the Vikings, when they make mistakes against the Jets, and they make mistakes against the Bengals, when you've got opportunities to win those games and you don't. And then you want to you have people that turn around and say, well, we win those games if Tua is there, but Tua wasn't there. The guys that were still could have won it. But there were mistakes, again, failures to execute. And all of those things add up. It's never just about one game. As much as you want to say, oh, it's just one game. Oh, it's just one game. Oh, it's just one game. All those one games add up. And that results in the Dolphins being in the position that we're in right now, which, again, the Dolphins are still in the driver's seat in terms of making the playoffs. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a second. But Brain, it's never too early to play holiday music. Quite frankly, I mean, if you ask my wife, it's never too late to play holiday music. But it's also never too early to start thinking about gifts. Hopefully, I mean, all of you, I imagine, are probably deep in thought about Hanukkah gifts and Christmas gifts at this time of year. Well, whether it's for a friend or for the friends in your pants, you can make this season a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your drummer boy, your little drummer boy, well, maybe not so little, who knows. Do your little drummer boy a favor and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you.
Woo!
Thank you very much. Santa cares about a sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com. Use the promo code Dolphins Talk for free shipping and 20% off. Guys, we've talked about it all the time here. Trust me, Manscaped, great products, whether it's the razors, whether it's the boxers, whether it's the lip balm, whether it's the liquid formulations, whatever it is, it's all good stuff. So go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk, get 20% off and free shipping. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code Dolphins Talk at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the promo code Dolphins Talk. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. And of course, then after you've gotten yourself all shaved, looking nice, feeling good, head over to trueclassic.com. Get yourself some incredible t-shirts, Henleys, long sleeves, sweatshirts, sweatpants, chinos, jeans, all amazing products that are cut just right to highlight your best attributes, fellas. So go to trueclassic.com. You're going to use the promo code Dolphins Talk. You're going to save 25% off of your order. And if you spend $100, you're going to get free shipping included. Really great stuff, whether it's t-shirts, whether it's outerwear, whether it's underwear, whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, True Classic is the place to do it. It's soft. I was sitting on the couch the other night wearing my True Classic, my blue True Classic zip-up hoodie, and my wife was sitting next to me on the couch, and she goes, I really love this. This is just, it's so soft and cute, and you just look so... Not to get too into my personal life, but my wife is very, very happy about the True Classic stuff. So listen, do yourself a favor, get your significant other to be really excited about the way you look. Go to trueclassic.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk, get 25% off of your order. And again, if you spend $100, you get free shipping as well. That's 25% off at trueclassic.com with the promo code Dolphins Talk. Santa won't be the only one slaying, thanks to True Classic. So, Brain, here we go. You know what time it is. I know what to use the immortal words of my good friend Charlie Touche. Shout out to Go Time Dolphins. You know what time it is.
Let me check your pulse if you're not fired up.
That's right. It's time for another Miami Dolphins pulse check. This is where you tell us how you are feeling about the Miami Dolphins in one word. So if you're watching live on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, the I'm a Miami Dolphin fan Facebook page, go ahead and put it right there on Twitter. Let us know, how are you feeling right now about the Miami Dolphins in one word? Let us know. let's check your pulse. I'll give you an opportunity to put your thoughts out into the comments. But right now, Brain, I need you to tell me how you are feeling right now in one word about the Miami Dolphins.
So we've reached this point in the season, and if we rewind back to our season preview show, and this is kind of where I thought this team would be at this point of the year. I thought we'd be 8-6 going into the last 3 games. We haven't gotten here quite the way that I expected us to get here, but at the end of the day, here we are. And obviously, you're at a low point in the season, having lost 3 straight games again. Well, the last time you lost 3 straight games, you bounced back and you found a way to win 5 games in a row and put yourself in really good position. You came into a crucial 3-game stretch that everybody knew was going to be difficult, and you faltered. But now you've still got an opportunity. Your margin for error is getting very, very slim, but you've got an opportunity to get this right and to not just make the playoffs, but to turn your entire season back around. So the word that I'm feeling right now is not necessarily an adjective. Well, it is an adjective, but it's not necessarily an emotion. This is pivotal. We're at a point right now where the Dolphins season can turn on a dime. And we could look back at this moment and this close defeat against Buffalo a month from now and say, that was the turning point. Or we could let this snowball, like the same old Dolphins have done time in, time again, and time again. And we could look at that game against Buffalo and say, that's where it fell apart. That's where we had an opportunity and we let it slip away. So what's it going to be? We said we were going to learn a lot about this football team over that 3-game gauntlet. And I think we did. I think we learned that this team got figured out to a certain extent and exposed to a certain extent. But then we also found out that this team has some resiliency because they didn't just lay an egg against Buffalo, and they did adjust, and they had a good game plan, and they had opportunities to win. But what they haven't figured out yet is how to win that game against that team in these moments. Well, you got 3 more weeks here to put yourself in position to get another opportunity. This game coming up on Sunday, on Christmas Day against the Packers, is the opportunity to get things right. It's not going to be an easy game by any stretch, but it's a game that you should win. You absolutely should win. And if this team gets that right, then they're going to have an opportunity to have another big-time road game in bad weather and prove that they could win it. And quite frankly, if you can do what you just did against Buffalo, you should be able to go into New England and win. I don't care what the weather is. But can they figure it out? Can they get it right? Only time's going to tell. But where we're at right now, this moment in time is pivotal.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, I mean, you got to say, Dolphins got a big assist over the weekend. Like, obviously, the Titans couldn't beat the Chargers, which would have been really helpful. But the Jets lost at home to the Detroit Lions. And the New England Patriots lost in the most ridiculous walk-off fashion I think that anybody could ever imagine. I thought the Tyreek Hill fumble recovery touchdown against the Chargers was the most ridiculous play I've ever seen. This ending to the Patriots-Raiders game over the weekend was absolutely absurd. And there was just something so... If you have not listened to the Patriots radio call of that play, and I can only imagine if you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, you know what has happened by now. But if you somehow have not heard the Patriots radio commentary of that walk-off play, do yourself a favor as a Miami Dolphins fan and listen to it. The reaction from Scott Zolak on that radio call, I mean, oh, it was like the best cocaine from like, pure cut Colombian cocaine. Like it's so good. It is so good as a Dolphin fan to hear that man be so disgusted.
I didn't know you partied like that.
He is just, man, that guy sucks. And I am just, to hear him be that despondent is just, it's just delightful. Anyway, go check that out. But well, listen, we got a pulse check time, and we got a lot of great comments here from folks on the listening and watching live. So we'll start out with some of the live feed comments here. We got Colton Branch is irritated. Sean Keiderling, optimistic. Joe Koppler, deja vu. Is that one word or two word? I'll give it, we'll call it one. Tret Shepard says playoffs.
Playoffs?
Tammy Lippert, cousin Tammy, says confident. Eric legit says optimistic. Marie Romero says hopeful. So those are some of the comments that we've got here in the live stream. And then we've also got a lot of Twitter comments. So let me pull those up here. I got the iPad over here with all the comments that we got. Stacy Armentrout is excited. Buddy Poston says, technically this is cheating. He says hopeful and pessimistic, which is pretty par for the, that sums up being a Dolphin fan right there. T_Hutch says Leary. Mark Corey says Tuapus. I don't know what that means. Tom Ernest is hopeful. Mark Berger is hungry. Glenn Rushworth is conflicted. Daniel Garza Cantu is confused. TC is familiar. Dean is nervous. Jorge L. Vidal is queasy. Andrew is optimistic. Mohammed Gadar is stubborn. At Fairvas is optimistic. Coach Peter is good. Cyrus R. Walker II is appreciated. Jake says winnable. Terry is confused. Finns fan in Saintsland is excited. Richard is concerned. Domi says, couldn't quite boil it down to one word, gives us a longer answer, but says confident. FinFan33 is confident. FinFan1372 is shaky. Lawrence is awesome. David Romero, anxious. Adam Schultz, different. Jason, fine. Bill says encouraged. Morpeth says imminent. Maria is excited. Colin McManus says playoffs. Mike Matchin says optimistic. I got a couple more optimistic from @_Cali494 is optimistic. EJ Barrow is copacetic. Nestor Morales is hopeful. But I have one on Twitter that I think is probably my favorite one that I've ever seen. And it comes from Kaz Mill, from @Kaz Mills. The one word is Dolphins? Question mark, which is in some ways perfect because it's just, I don't know how to make heads or tails of any of this. So a very great answer right there. Thanks to everybody for sharing your pulse checks with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for being part of the community. I guess I'll tell you how I'm feeling now. And there's no two ways around it. I'm apprehensive. I feel like it's all there. There's no reason to believe that this Miami Dolphins team shouldn't win these last 3 games in front of them. There's no reason to feel that they shouldn't, especially based on how they performed against Buffalo. But I'm apprehensive, and I'm apprehensive for a couple of reasons. One is because I've seen this movie before, and I've seen Dolphins teams that have been this good fall short. I have seen Dolphins teams that were, I don't know that I've seen them be better, but I have seen Dolphins teams that were among the top teams in the league just completely fall apart and miss the playoffs. Teams that I believed in. So I've seen that happen before. And I'm also apprehensive because, as you said, this is kind of an inflection point, not just for this season, but beyond. Because if this team does fall short, you got to look at how does this team improve in the offseason? There's not a lot of draft assets left. There's not a ton of money to bring in free agents. And so it's a limited window to hold on to what we've got with this core group of players. And if this core group of players is not quite good enough, Dolphins need to make some adjustments. You got to bolster the offensive line still. You got to bolster the linebackers. You got to bolster that defensive secondary. And as much as I would love to see it happen, I don't think Byron Jones is ever playing another snap for this team. Xavier Howard, as much as I love Xavier Howard for the contributions that he has made to the Miami Dolphins, this is not the same Xavier Howard that put up elite numbers in this league. He's at that point where cornerbacks start to slip off and fall off. So the Dolphins need to rebuild that defensive secondary. So as much as I would like to think that right now there is an opportunity here, I'm apprehensive because I feel like as much as I would love for this team to be right there and ready to make that next step and to make it right now, I don't know that they're there yet. And I'm unsure as to whether or not the resources that we need to get us to that next level are resources that we have available to us right now. Not that they couldn't be there, but they're not there right now. So I'm apprehensive. And that's just kind of who I am. I get a little worried, and I get worried about the current situation, and that makes me worried about the bigger situation. And I think looking at things from a macro level, in which I talked about in the recap from the Chargers game, I think when you look at things from a macro level, you know, if you're a Dolphin fan that tends to look at things from the bigger picture, you know, I think there's plenty of things to make you apprehensive there as well. So, Brain, that's my pulse check. I'm apprehensive. You have anything to say about that?
I think you've earned the right to be apprehensive. This team has made us all apprehensive. Yes. I think, ultimately, they've got to show us at some point. You can't just anybody that's sitting here and saying that they feel confident. I envy your outlook on things, but your confidence is not rooted in any evidence or reality, really. Everything that we've seen to this point would say that this team is not now. If your expectation is you're happy if you make the playoffs, then I can understand. I feel confident that this team will make the playoffs.
It's a very good chance they make the playoffs.
I feel if that's where your bar is, then I can understand your confidence. But if you're like me and like you who believe that at the very least for this team, for this season to be a success, you need to win a playoff game, nothing that we've seen thus far would, lead you to believe that this team is ready to win a playoff game. Now, you could feel like they're close and you could feel like there's a shot, because I feel like there's a shot and I think they can get things right. But to feel like confident, I think that's just false bravado. I think that's you trying to talk yourself into feeling, confident by saying if I fake it till you make it, basically. But look, you do you. I hope that I hope that I feel that confidence in a few weeks, because if the Dolphins do go out and play a great game against Green Bay and then go on the road to New England and win that game. And then we'll see how things fall, because that Jets game either is going to be a must win or might potentially be meaningless the way things, shape out here over the next couple of weeks. Then, if the Dolphins are going into the playoffs at 11-6 playing their best football, then maybe I am going to feel pretty confident, especially if they can find a way to get into like the number 5 seed and you end up with a game against Tennessee
or Jacksonville, the way things are going.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, we're definitely all going to be Jacksonville fans this week.
Yes, absolutely. On Thursday night, we're all going to be cheering for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But look, here's the thing. I got a lot of heat on Twitter on Saturday night after I said that they were the same old Dolphins. And after the last 3 games, they're 0-3 this December, which is very same old Dolphins.
They've earned the moniker.
I can't. Like, if you look at a Dolphins team that's 0-3 in December and say that's not same old Dolphins, okay. But then I said, somebody said to me that they're going to prove to you that they're not the same old Dolphins. And I said, good. Yes, please prove to me that you are not the same old Dolphins, because here's what the same old Dolphins thing is. The same old Dolphins thing is you got 3 games left. You need to win 2. You win 1 of them and you either back into the playoffs or you don't make the playoffs at all. That's the same old Dolphins thing to do. And then if you make the playoffs, you get boat raced in the first round by whoever it is.
No. Let's be clear here that winning 2 games does not necessarily guarantee you the playoffs if you don't win the last 2.
Right. If the Dolphins win
the
2
same
games,
old Dolphins thing to do would absolutely be to win this week and then lose in New England, have everything break wrong to where they need to win the game against the Jets and get help to make the playoffs.
So that's the thing. There is ample opportunity for this team to prove they are not the same old Dolphins. And to be clear, in case there's anybody out there that doesn't believe it, that's what all of us want. We want everybody, me, the brain, Mike, Tom, Ian, everybody, every Dolphin fan you can imagine wants the Dolphins not to be the same old Dolphins. But we've got to remember there's also a possibility that they could still be the same old Dolphins, even though they look different, because that's the ultimate thing. The ultimate same old Dolphins move is to get you to the point where you go, these aren't the same old Dolphins, only to actually, in fact, still be the same old Dolphins.
Exactly.
That's what they do. It's Al Pacino in Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. That's what they do. Now, none of us want that to happen. We all want the Dolphins to go and win and beat Green Bay and beat New England. And listen, because of the way things fell, there is every possibility that Dolphins could beat Green Bay this week. And if the Jets lose on Thursday night to the Jaguars and then lose their next game and the Dolphins beat the Packers, they could potentially clinch a playoff spot in week 17 before that Jets game even happens. Okay. It is a real possibility.
Right. If the Jets lose to Jacksonville and the Dolphins beat the Packers, then we're 2 games up on the Jets.
Yep.
And 1 game up on the Patriots. If we beat the Patriots, we guarantee that they cannot pass us because we'd own the season series against them. Plus we'd be 2 games up and we'd be at the very least 2 games up against the Jets. So we'd be clinching a playoff spot. All we need is for Jacksonville to beat the Jets. Very doable. For the Dolphins to beat Green Bay. Very doable. And then you just got to win the game against the Patriots, and it doesn't even matter what the Jets do.
Exactly. So it's all in your hands to make the playoffs no matter what. But with a little help, you can do it and get it to the point where that week 18 game means nothing in terms of making the playoffs. Now, that game is going to mean something because they'll almost certainly be playing for seeding. But the fact of the matter is, it's all there in front of them. So You don't want to be the same old Dolphins? Go out there, beat Green Bay, beat New England, beat the Jets, go into the playoffs at 11-6. Because here's the other thing, and I'll say it. If the Dolphins go into the playoffs at 11-6 on a 3-game winning streak, even with victories over Green Bay, New England, and the Jets, who will all probably end up being teams that miss the playoffs, you go into the playoffs on a 3-game winning streak, whether you're going to Kansas City, you're going to Buffalo, or you're going to Cincinnati, or you're going to Jacksonville, or nobody's going to be too happy about having to face the Dolphins in that situation and in that scenario. So your job is to go out there and get those wins, get those dubs, and let's get into the playoffs hot, and let's prove that we are not the same old Dolphins.
And let me just add this, just to be clear. The Dolphins could win these next 3 games and be 11-6 going into the playoffs. And that does not mean that they're not the same old Dolphins. This team does not prove that they are not the same old Dolphins until we get to the playoffs, and then we see what they can do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just making the playoffs doesn't prove it. Just making the playoffs doesn't prove it. If you get to the playoffs and you get into it and you go toe-to-toe with somebody, you go toe-to-toe with Kansas City, you go toe-to-toe with Cincinnati or Buffalo, and you win that game, we can have a conversation. Then we can have a conversation. But let's get there first. But in the meantime, let me just pass along a message from the 2008 Miami Dolphins marketing team.
For those of you listening but not watching, this is the rally towel that we got when we went to the 2008 playoff game against the
divisional game that we hosted because we won the AFC East.
It was a wild card game,
but we hosted the game.
Yeah,
because we won the AFC East.
Yes, but it was still a wild card game.
Yes, it was a wild card game.
It says, "The wait is over. Believe in now."
How did that game turn out, Brain?
It was not a good one for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, man. So that's just to say we're a long ways away. Just making the playoffs. That's no, I mean, 2016 we made the playoffs.
Did that Ravens team win the Super Bowl?
In 2008? I don't remember. So anyway, long ways to go. Obviously, we all want to see the good things happen. We all want to see the Dolphins go to the playoffs. We all want to see them succeed. We all want to see them make a run. We all want to see them prove the world wrong, prove us wrong, shut us up, make us change the name of the show. That's it. Make us change the name of the show challenge, Miami Dolphins. Let's go. There's nothing I would love more. I've said it before and I'll say it again. All I want is to see the Miami Dolphins win a Super Bowl. Just one before I die. So, anyway. All of this to say, there are reasons for optimism, but there are reasons for skepticism, which is why my pulse check is apprehensive. Once again, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Amplified to Rock, at Aaron the Brain, at Same Old Dolphins. Subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. Subscribe, like the I'm a Miami Dolphin Fan Facebook page. Subscribe to the Same Old Dolphin Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us a positive review. Give us some love. We appreciate all of you for listening. We appreciate all of you that are interested in having actual meaningful conversations and meaningful interactions, not those of you who are flying off the handle swearing at us for voicing opinions on our personal Twitter accounts. That's nonsense. That gets no respect from me. If you're going to fly off the handle and drop F-bombs because you don't like me calling them the same old Dolphins, not my fault. You haven't been around long enough to understand. Not my fault. But anyway, we appreciate those of you who participate, who listen, who take part. We wish all of you the happiest of holidays. We'll be back later this week to preview that Packers game. But in the meantime, Brain, anything else you want to say?
Just win, baby.
Just win. That's it. So For Aaron the Brain, this is Amplified Rock. Take care of yourselves and each other. And as always, go Dolphins!
Happy Hanukkah.